least 99 million Mexicans are called to vote on Sunday in the first judicial elections aimed at democratizing justice. Venezuela's indigenous communities vote on Sunday in the second stage of the legislative elections 2025. The Russian delegation arrived in Turkey to participate in the second round of direct negotiations with the Ukrainian government. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. At least 99 million Mexicans are called to vote on Sunday in the first judicial elections aimed at democratizing justice. The election kick-started with a civic ceremony headed by the National Electoral Institute, which began with the raising of the flag on the Institute's esplanade. Citizens are going to the polls on June 1st to elect 881 judicial officials at the federal level. The process is expected to end in the afternoon. However, the schedule may vary depending on each entity. These positions are fundamental to the administration of civil, criminal, and electoral justice in Mexico. In this context, the President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, exercised her right to vote early on Sunday at the polling station located at the Museum of Art of the Secretariat of the Treasury in the historic center of Mexico City. The President was accompanied during the democratic exercise by her husband, Jesus Maria. Afterwards, while being greeted by the population at the site, the head of state exclaimed, "Long live democracy," and showed her thumb stained with indelible ink. This was Sheinbaum's first vote as head of the federal executive and the first vote ever cast by a woman president in the country. Similarly, former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador exercised his right to vote at a polling station located in the municipality of Palenque in the state of Chiapas. The former Mexican leader was greeted with hugs and recognition by citizens after participating in the democratic process. López Obrador highlighted the importance of the election for a fair judiciary in the country.
Elección histórica. Nunca en la historia de nuestro país.
A historic election. Never in the history of our country. The people, in a direct manner, had decided and had the right to elect judges, magistrates, ministers of the judiciary. It is the first time in history. That is why I wanted to participate in these historic elections.
Participar en esta histórica elección.
Mexican National Electoral Institute President Guadalupe Tadei described these direct popular vote elections to the judiciary as unprecedented and as a way to strengthen the separation of powers.
So far, we have set up 79,931 polling stations throughout the country, which represents 95.8% of the initially foreseen total number of polling stations. Today we're witnessing an unprecedented moment in the democratic history of Mexico, with people actively taking part in the formation of one of the three powers of the Union. This is a unique opportunity to strengthen the division of powers and to have a judicial system that's closer to the people.
And Venezuela's indigenous communities vote on Sunday in the second stage of the legislative elections 2025. The newly elected deputies and legislators, who represent almost 170,000 indigenous peoples, is divided in more than 3,900 communities in states such as Amazonas, Anzoátegui, and Apure. For this election day, the National Electoral Council set up 95 voting centers and 118 polling stations in 77 municipalities of the country. Parliamentary and legislative elections for the indigenous communities reinforce the right to self-determination of indigenous peoples who contribute with their ancestral knowledge and culture to the development of Venezuela.
Es It is important to recognize the electoral process that right now we are complying with those articles, and the 126 with our indigenous culture of our indigenous people. Today we said with great pride we are electing our deputies to the National Assembly and our legislators of the state of Anzoátegui.
It is something essential and special for us because it is a pride as indigenous people. For the preparation of those children to come, the new generations that come after us, so that they follow the path of maintaining our culture, our customs, in our communities, and so we have a good representation in the National Assembly. To defend our rights as indigenous peoples and communities, always united and strengthened in compliance with indigenous laws.
Meanwhile, in Poland, polls have closed on Sunday's runoff presidential election, a tight race with major implications for the country's role in Europe. Voting ended at 9 p.m. local time in the election, where Warsaw's pro-European mayor Rafał Trzaskowski, an ally of the centrist government, was facing off against nationalist historian Karol Nawrocki. A first round of voting was held on May 18th, with Trzaskowski winning by a razor-thin margin of 31% against Nawrocki's 30%, which triggered Sunday's second round. Exit polls suggested the race is too tight to call, despite Trzaskowski declaring himself winner in the aftermath. The State Electoral Commission expected to release the final vote count on Monday, though official result could be known sooner. We now have our short break coming up. First, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Venezuela welcomes the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, with the aim of strengthening bilateral relations. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Hill welcomed the head of the Iranian Consultative Assembly at the Simon Bolivar International Airport in Maiquetía. Iran and Venezuela celebrated 75 years of diplomatic relations, which were deepened by Commander Hugo Chavez and President Nicolas Maduro. Both countries have signed at least 300 joint development agreements in strategic areas such as energy, oil, gas, transportation, tourism, among others. And as part of his visit, the President of the Consultative Assembly of Iran, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, participated in the presentation of a floral offering at the sarcophagus of the liberator Simon Bolivar. With this act, Venezuela reaffirms its diplomacy of peace and brotherhood with Iran. The Persian delegation will fulfill an extensive agenda of activities in the South American nation to strengthen the strategic alliances between both nations. The Russian delegation arrived in Turkey to participate in the second round of direct negotiations with the Ukrainian government. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that the second phase of talks is scheduled for Monday, June 2nd in Istanbul. Lavrov added that Moscow has drafted a memorandum outlining its position on the most important aspects of the root causes of the crisis and conflict. It is hoped that Russia and Ukraine will engage in dialogue and reach a joint agreement. And Russian authorities denounced as terrorist attacks the explosions that caused train derailments over the weekend. The first attack occurred at 10:50 p.m. local time on Saturday at a railway line in the Vygotsky district of the Bryansk region, where the structure of a road bridge was detonated and the debris fell on a passenger train. The incident left 7 people dead and 66 wounded. In addition, at 3 a.m. local time on Sunday, a railway bridge was also blown up in Kursk Oblast, leaving an engineer and his 2 assistants injured. In this context, the Russian Investigative Committee classified the bridge collapses as terrorist attacks, with official representatives Svetlana Petrenko informing they were deliberately blown up. And Russia denounces drone attack on military units in southeast Siberia by the Ukrainian regime. This way, the local authorities of the Russian region of Irkutsk reported that the unmanned air vehicle attack was aimed at the town of Stredny. They also note that a building in the locality of Novomaltinsk was attacked. The Ministry of Emergencies and National Guardsmen said that the drones were launched from a truck, which was already blocked, and Federal Security Service officers were on the scene. We have a second short break coming up before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on world's most recent events. A final break, and I'll be right back with more. Welcome back. At least 30 people were killed by Israel in a new attack on a raid on an aid distribution center in southern Gaza, to where thousands of people turned in desperation amid the famine ravaging the Palestinian enclave. The attack distribution center is run by a U.S.-backed group in Rafah. The Gaza government media office issued a statement confirming that the attack by the occupation army also left 150 people injured, and that the number of casualties is likely to rise. They said the killings reflect the nature of these areas as mass death traps, not as humanitarian aid points. They also denounced what they describe as a systematic and malicious use of aid as a tool of war, used to blackmail starving civilians and forcibly round them up at exposed extermination points.
We don't want aid from them. They are killing us and they won't give us aid. We want a solution. Do you think someone throwing a missile at us will give us aid? They want to take my son to kill him. We have lost enough. We want a solution and to live in freedom. We want to work and eat with our money. We don't want aid from Israel. We don't want our children to die. What, you give me food and then kill me with a missile? What did I gain from this food? You feed me and then you kill me? No, we don't want that. We want our children to live as they were before, and for my son to go to school and come back home and find a plate of lentils. I will be satisfied with that. I want him to come back safely from school. I don't want anything, and this is what I hope from God, that they find a solution. I don't want more than that.
Human rights organizations on behalf of Palestinian prisoners are denouncing violence by Israeli Megiddo prison administration, especially against minor prisoners. According to the organizations, the prisoners are subjected to systematic malnutrition and repeated beatings. Lawyers claim that the prison administration frequently denies inmates the legally stipulated outdoor time of 1 hour a day. They also pointed out that illnesses are on the rise among the inmate population due to poor hygiene, lack of ventilation, and medical treatment. Climate activist Greta Thunberg and 11 other activists set sail for Gaza on Sunday afternoon in a boat with the aim of breaking the Israeli blockade against the Gaza Strip. The Matlin sailboat, operated by the activist group Freedom Flotilla Coalition, set sail from the Sicilian port of Catania in Italy. Activists will attempt to reach the Gaza coast in order to deliver aid and raise awareness among the international community about the humanitarian crisis being experienced by its inhabitants. A previous attempt to reach Gaza by sea in May failed after another of the group's ships, the Conscience, was attacked by drones in international waters off the coast of Malta. The group blamed Israel for the attack. In other news, in France, 2 people were killed and over 500 were arrested overnight at riots following the 5-0 win of the Paris Saint-Germain team over Inter Milan at the Champions League final in Munich, Germany. A total of 11.5 million people tuned in across France to watch the game, and although the majority of fans celebrated peacefully, the Interior Minister said that 491 people were arrested in Paris after a crowd converged on the Champs-Élysées Avenue and clashes broke out with the police. Across France, a total of 559 people were arrested. The PSG team was to hold a victory parade on the Champs-Élysées on Sunday, with tens of thousands of supporters expected to gather to catch a glimpse at their returning heroes. At least 30 people have died in India's northeast after monsoon rains caused floods and landslides over the weekend. In this regard, authorities reported on Sunday the death of at least 8 people in the Assam state and 9 more in neighboring Arunachal Pradesh, many of them buried under earth and debris dislodged by the downpour. In addition, 3 members of one family were killed in a mudslide in Guwahati on Saturday as heavy rains led to flooding in many areas of the city, leading to long power outages and prompting authorities to shut schools and colleges. The torrential rains have continued for 3 straight days, with the country's weather agency forecasting more downpours in the region in the coming days, prompting authorities to issue a red alert for several northeastern districts. In Costa Rica, the authorities have warned about the proximity of a new tropical wave with heavy rains to hit the country shortly. The National Meteorological Institute said the weather phenomenon will impact the Central Pacific, South Pacific, and northern regions, and that the rain will be accompanied by thunderstorms and increased humidity levels. This is the 4th tropical wave of the season, which coincides with hundreds of reports of flooding throughout the country due to seasonal rainfall over the last days. Therefore, the authorities warned the effects will be greater. At this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.